Mr. Pips is taking his sweet time, and it's time to start cutting corners.
Hi, we're Snuti. I'm Krister.
And I think I'm Claire.
I hope so. On this channel, we talk about game development, we also like to laugh, and we share our journey as we laugh along. Crying before we even get started.
At our current trajectory, like most game dev projects out there, we will never be done if we continue this way.
Well said, like a true gnome.
Yep. Probably nobody understood. But what I'm trying to say is that we would never get finished if we're currently working the way we're doing it. We've been working on the life of Mr. Pips for the last 2 months. Well, a month and a half if you take away holidays. And we really want to start wrapping up the game. Yes, it's not a long time to actually be working on a game, but at the same time we have loads and loads of new game ideas that we really want to try out, which is kind of the bane of all game devs, really.
Is it a case of shiny object syndrome?
I think it is, actually. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So in this video, we'll be talking about how we are cutting corners to get our game finished, assessing our goals, and whether we are achieving them.
And you'll also hear about our spooky little ghost that we made for the 100 Days of Game Dev Challenge. Ooh. The Life of Mr. Pips is a small game where we set out to learn 3 things. The first one was how to actually make our own 3D character from scratch, learning everything from weight painting to modeling to adding it all the way into Unity.
The second one, we wanted to learn how to tell a story and how to present that story in Unity.
And the third one was learning how to make our own little world and the assets for this tiny little game we were making.
It was supposed to be tiny at least. It grew over time, you know? Cope creep, you ever heard about that?
Scope creep. Tea time. Oh dear me, maybe we should have some scones with that.
Oh yeah.
A tea, afternoon tea, maybe 11 C's. Not too bad. These 3 things seemed relatively easy at the beginning and simplistic goals until we started getting into the nitty-gritty of the game and realized that things were taking far longer than we first anticipated.
Isn't that always the case?
Yep. When we realized it was already the end of October, and that was actually our deadline for Mr. Pips, we realized we needed to go back to our game dev plan and see where were we going wrong.
I think we have a lot to learn here.
We do. It wasn't the largeness of the world, nor the story, nor the characters that took such a long time. So what was it? I don't know, Mamini. What could it possibly be? Well, it ended up being that designing a world full of assets by yourself does not just take a month.
And we're accepting the no crunch challenge, Jonas. Taking that into consideration, we are going back on our plan to make all assets ourselves, and we are going to be using asset packs to supplement the art in the world and make it more lively. And then we can maybe actually focus more on the goals we wanted to.
And actually being able to utilize asset packs means we have a more vibrant world rather than being limited to just the assets that we could make in the time limit we set.
Looking at Quaternius and Polyperfect's asset pack, we realized the majority of the assets we already needed were available, and then we could spend the rest of the time making some more unique assets ourselves.
By taking this approach, we were suddenly super duper productive and managed to finish the starting area in no time at all. Time!
We're hacking away at this. It's so efficient. We're working so fast.
Well, prefabbing did take the majority of the time. And also making Mr. Pips bounce off a lily pad is also very, very, very necessary.
Gotta add that bounciness. When we did game dev back in 2012, it was not that easily available to find good asset packs. And that's been changing these days, and it's really nice.
The asset packs that we're actually using in our project now, I've linked down below in the descriptions, so you can also check them out and see whether they're fitting for you too. Sometimes it's actually funny that you take the hard way first before you find out the easier, more productive or efficient way in the end.
It's usually the way, isn't it? We were considering to use asset packs quite a few times, but we were stubborn and we were trying to plow through it. But I think it's important to know when you should turn around and consider all the options, and this is one of those moments.
Though I'm kind of glad that we actually did do quite a lot of the assets ourselves, because we learned a lot about texturing, how to do things in Blender really, and how to import things properly into Unity too. So the lesson from all this is that you should go back often and revisit your game dev plan, because you're probably missing something or forgotten exactly what your goals are for your project.
Your to-do list will always be an endless stream of things to do, but your game dev plan will be always the essential and the most important part and the vision of your project. So take a look back on that and then reassess what tasks you should actually be focusing on.
We've been making some great progress on Mr. Pips now, and Blueberry is finally in the works, so we'll be getting a new character in hopefully soon. We didn't realize that actually making a story, 3D characters and all that jazz was going to take a lot of time, but we're so glad that we've actually walked down this path to learn and make mistakes. You know, it's better to learn this earlier rather than later, right?
And that's the whole purpose of us making lots of small games and trying to do it on a small scale, even though the scale seems to be increasing randomly. But that's what's called feature creep.
Scope creep.
Scope creep, yeah, you know it.
It's scopey.
And creepy.
Everything in game dev is all about learning. Since indie game development is a jack of all trades, really, you're going to be wearing a lot of different hats, or you'll be outsourcing those hats if you want or if you need to, really. I mean, we wear many hats.
Gotta stay fashionable with your hats. And obviously by hats we are talking about all the trades you need to learn, such as programming, artwork, putting it all together, sound work, and user experience. And there's just so many things that goes into game dev, and including obviously marketing as well.
Yep. One
of the biggest goals for our games we make these days is to learn something from each one of them.
So reviewing what we want to learn and our goals for the project is very, very important.
This time, character and story being one of the main parts we want to get really good at. I'm not sure really we've gotten that far on character or story yet, or especially considering we are kind of past our self-imposed deadline already. So at least this is maybe a bit of a late course correction, but better late than never.
Well, I think partially it's kind of, you know, the starting area is finished, the starting cutscene is finished, but there keeps being loads and loads of changes, like Mr. Pip suddenly bouncing off a lily pad instead of falling into a puddle.
And now we need to implement swimming.
Ooh-y. The challenge that we're currently taking part in, 100 Days of Game Dev, had its own little mini-game this week, which we had to complete in time for Halloween.
They are putting together a little surprise thing for everyone who's participating in the challenge and doing their submission, so it'll be exciting to see what they're making.
And what is it that we're actually supposed to be making?
You know, a Snuti ghost.
A Snuti ghost, of course. Everybody makes a Snuti ghost. So we made our own little quirky 2-man ghost with the addition of our 2 little doggos in it.
Which we now call the Snuti ghost.
Yoo-hoo.
Of course, our little ghost has a little sling around it, and he's like got the little doggos. Winky's there, Morris is there, Claire's the short one, I'm the tall one, and...
No, I'm the tall one. I'm the tall one. Everybody knows I'm the tall one. We're excited about continuing on Mr. Pips, where we'll have the ability to focus on how the world looks without having to actually sacrifice the aesthetics of the game. We've learned so much in terms of planning that even us, being seasoned veterans in completing projects and deadlines, forgot. So it's a lesson for us all to remember to actually set more realistic goals.
Thank you so much for watching and hearing all about our game dev journey. I hope you have a lovely week and a lovely time.
Yep. Thank you so much for watching, guys.
And remember to hit that like and subscribe. Smash it if you like. Until then, see you around.
So.
Have a good one.
Have a great one.